What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Prison Audio. My name's Mike, and this is Letters from Aliceville. This is a podcast that I produce with my friend Celeste Blair. Celeste is currently incarcerated in FCI Aliceville in Aliceville, Alabama, and she was sentenced and convicted of a non-violent drug conspiracy charge. She was sentenced to 30 years. So this is a bit of a podcast that we've created together where I set up video visitations with Celeste and I let her kind of do her thing and explain a little bit about what's going on in the prison and stuff. So what we're about to watch are two back-to-back video visitations that I had with her recently, and she's going to talk a little bit about the peer success program that she set up. She's going to talk about just kind of her life in prison and some general news and that kind of thing. So we're going to jump right into that. That is going to be the bulk of the podcast today, but I did want to give you guys some good news that happened recently. If you are not already familiar with this, before he left office, Joe Biden granted a whole bunch of clemencies. I believe on one day he granted 1,500 clemencies, and that is what you see behind me right now is an executive grant of clemency order. And interestingly enough, if we go down to page 15 of 24 of this, and I will leave a link below for this article if you guys are interested in reading it but if we go down to page 15 of 24, we see that Celeste Blair, and there is her inmate number there, her sentence was actually commuted, so she is actually going to be getting out with good time and all that kind of stuff factored in. She's actually getting out of prison in a couple of months, so we're actually going to be able to have regular Zoom meetings with Celeste and bring her on the podcast. I'm going to help her set up her own her own way of setting up the podcast and everything. So definitely stay tuned for that. It's going to be pretty exciting coming up that, she's getting literally she thought she was doing another 15 years and she's getting out within a couple of months. So that comes up in the video visitation a little bit today. So stay tuned for that. And I will come back at the end with some comments. So stay tuned. I'll see you guys then.
My name is Celeste. I'm currently incarcerated in FCI Aliceville in Aliceville, Alabama. I'm serving a 30-year prison sentence for drug conspiracy charges. I'm an artist. I've been one my whole life. I'm an abstract painter. But here in federal prison, in the absence of paint, I write. Welcome to my podcast, an inside look into a federal women's prison. This is Letters from Aliceville. Letters from Aliceville is a prison audio production. Visit us at prisonaudio.com to find all of our podcasts.
I had the best day yesterday, and I think it's really starting to sink in that I'm leaving. I think it was kind of like I was kind of numb about it at first, and now it's like really sinking in that like the joy is starting to bubble up to the surface, right? So excited. So we had a think tank meeting yesterday, and I'm going to actually work until the very last moment here. It's so funny. I was out working in the garden, and somebody was like, "You're gonna work that garden until the very last day, aren't you?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, of course." Like, what do you mean? It's not like they're gonna let me check into the spa the last week, you know. Right. So yesterday it was like it was so funny because my goal right now is obviously to smoothly transfer all my responsibilities over to other people. And yesterday's think tank meeting, we had picture this, I'm standing we're at the visitation room, and there are about a dozen women in the room, maybe more. And I'm standing at a whiteboard, and I have a list of things that I feel like we need to talk about. So the first thing we did was the role, right? And so I have my friend Kat Voss. I think that she's going to be able to take over as the director. I have no problem thinking that she can handle it, And directing a group like that where you're trying to get a whole room full of people on the same board, to collect their thoughts and figure out which directions to take and how to accomplish our goals. There's an art to that, And I don't mean to toot my own horn, but that is my gift, And so what comes so easily and naturally for me, I have to remember it doesn't always come naturally for everyone else. But Kat I've noticed, she's been paying close attention to me for a long time now. And I think that it was such a kind of a bittersweet day yesterday because remember, this is a group of women that I put together because we all had one thing in common, and that was that we were doing a lot of time. And even though I had some of the less, my sentence was one of the less, or the least rather, I can tell what we do here is we kind of start to shut off to people as we know they're leaving. That's what our human nature does, especially in this prison. It's so hard to say goodbye to people that we thought we were going to be doing time with, and it was just very awkward. Not awkward, but just bittersweet, And it's hard for me to leave them. It really is. And so I had the most beautiful idea last week, though, Mike, and you're involved in that idea. Okay. But I did this, there's certain yoga moves that literally invoke creativity and broaden your span of thought. And I did this amazing yoga sequence, and it was clear as day afterwards that you and I are going to make a documentary called Daddy Issues, and we're going to win a Pulitzer for it. Watch what I tell you. Okay. So many women here are here from, that's the beginning of their story, Daddy Issues, and it's going to be amazing. So a lot of the girls in the think tank are going to be involved in that, Kat, for sure. Isn't that a great idea?
I like it. I'm in. Okay,
great. You're going to wear a T-shirt that says Daddy Issues? That might be weird. Maybe we'll find something different for you. Yeah, I solve Daddy Issues. I'm the voice for the women with Daddy Issues. So anyway, I started calling the roll yesterday, and as the director, for me, it all comes naturally. I'm calling the roll, and on my list of things to do for our meeting yesterday, one of the top of the list is that, there's 2 or 3 units at any given time whose leaders are chronically not present. So I called to a vote. Okay, so what should be the rule? Let's amend our bylaws, I said. So when I asked them, because I'm trying to get them to interact more and me remove myself more, So I asked them, what are we going to do? What should be the rule? If we're going to amend our bylaws and make it where, should it be one absence, one excused absence for each leader every 90 days? Well, I suggested 6 months, and one of the women raised their hand. No, let's do 90 days. Okay, great. So then they have the ability to send their second. Every leader has someone who is second in command, and they're allowed to send them. Okay, so we wrote into the law yesterday, the bylaws now say that you can only send your second once every 90 days because we don't want to have a situation where they're always relying on someone else to go for them, And being a leader is a serious thing, So that got sorted out, and I was grateful. And then we started working on the next agenda, which is in my absence. They'll have their first seminar in the gym every 90 days. We do the quarterly seminars. And the next one I won't be present for, God willing, and the creek don't rise. That's what they say in Tennessee. But it's so I asked each lady, I wrote on the board, so let's say the different spokes of the wellness wheel that we're working with, so how to put it into a 90-day challenge for setting and reaching goals. Because one of the things I noticed with the mentor program is that people say, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, but they don't stick to it. My grandmother, one of her best words that she used all the time was stick-to-itiveness. She said that all good women have stick-to-itiveness. Anybody can start something, but it's sticking with it. And it's so funny because I've kind of always been the one that I come up with great ideas, but I'm not good at making them come to life, you know? I think that's one of the reasons I'm so proud of the think tank, because I birthed it, I visualized it, birthed it, and saw it through. And that gives me great self-worth, you know? And also, you know, I know that my capabilities have expanded here. So anyway, we put on the board sobriety, budgeting, resume building, fitness, recycling, small business plans, foreign language, parenting, and writing. Right, we wrote those things on the board because those all address different spokes of the wellness wheel. So then I asked the women in the room, the think tank, I said, okay, so who wants to draw up the scope of each one? So let's say, and each one has got to be significantly different because you can't set a challenge for each of those and use the same template, right? So I explained that to them, and then I went through it with them. So sobriety. So how can we give an incentive or an award in 90 days for something to do with sobriety? Well, we have a thing called spiritual sobriety every Friday nights in the chapel. So if we were going to draw up a paper, a proposal, or the scope of it, and give an award, what we could do is make it where the person in each unit who gets the most people involved in attending Friday night spiritual sobriety, or the person who takes the initiative to do an NA class in their unit or an NA circle in their unit each week, that person deserves to be recognized with a certificate or some kind of goodies. And I use the example that all dogs, you train them 3 different ways: clicker train, treat train, or praise train, right? That everybody and people are the same way. Some people just want to be praised. Some people want it put on the bulletin board that they did such a good job. And some people want a treat. So we're going to give those options, you know. So in budgeting, obviously, it would be drawn up a different way. And so I asked them, which one of you want to keep, because back in the day, I would have drawn all those up. And then, or me and Kat Voss and Brooke Beckley would have drawn them up, and then everybody else would have just rode our coattails. But that's ended now. So I put it on the board, and I asked them who wants to do what, and they all signed up for what they're committing to. The chubbiest one in the room wanted to do the physical one for the fit test, and I was like, that lets me know that she's trying to do something different with her own body, and I was so excited. And I was like, I'm going to help you with it. I've got all the material you need. So, and then I'm going to draw up the one for the writing challenge because that, you know, that's my passion. So then I was like, okay, next, so how I have babied them all this time is that generally I would have drawn that up, I would have taken it to get copied, I would have passed it all out, and they would have just magically appeared with a folder and been able to do it, you know. So I was like, okay, so now what's the next step? You're going to draw this up, and that by what date are you going to turn it in, and to who? To whom? Who is going to make the copies? So they're like, I stood back and let them work it out, you know. So we set a date, March 1st, they're going to have those papers drawn up. They're going to deliver them to Kat Voss, who's going to walk them out, and then she's going to send them to Brooke Beckley, who's going to make copies, and Brooke's going to make sure they get distributed, and And I'm removing myself as much little by little so that they can learn how to follow it all through on their own, you know. I have a feeling that between the 12 of them, they're going to be fine. So I'm just so excited, though, that they're going to go ahead and forge on without me, and they're capable of that.
I think Kat is a good choice.
Oh my God, she's amazing. She's so amazing. I know that we're going to be able to bring light to her situation and Brooke Beckley. I really can't wait for you to meet Brooke Beckley. I've talked about her before. I know she's 27 and doing 50 years behind some daddy issues. So, yeah, that's very exciting to me. And I think that they are an amazing group of women who it's hard for me to leave behind. You know, and I don't have to. The beautiful thing is I don't have to, because I'll be able to stay in contact with them. The next thing that they're going to have to do is, so the next thing on our agenda was this. So let's say the two people that weren't present. That means that there were 2 units not represented, and their leaders are chronically not there. So then we figured out how to handle it on a disciplinary level, and we created the bylaws. But then what do you do? Because what I learned in the book Burnout is that it's kind of like stress. If you have a situation where you're managing your stress, and every day you do yoga and you meditate, but that night you go home from the gym and the same dude that stressed you out and made you need to do yoga and meditate is still there, or you go to the same job the next day and you still have this tyrannical boss, you're managing the stress, but you're not removing yourself from the stress loop and dealing with the stressor. So in all situations, yeah, you can change the rules and you can write it down and know that this is the new policy, but you've also got to handle the practical problem at hand, which is out of kindness, pulling that capable leader to the side and having an intervention with her. Why are you not here? Why are you repetitively not here? So in the past, I would have done that. So then I reached out to them yesterday, and I said, okay, so which one of you sees them, and you can take the initiative to go talk to them and figure out how we, as a collective, can help her become a strong leader or get her to step down. Because the problem is, if we don't handle that, we have a unit that doesn't have a mentor program in place. And that's not good for the community, right? So it's up to us to fix the situation. So 2 of the young ladies, one of them was like, oh yeah, I see her, Kat Voss, I see her at work every day. I said, well, please go and talk to her, because if anybody can motivate somebody, it's Kat. I don't know how she does all the things she does. She's probably, she and I are wired a lot the same way. The only thing different is that I work out every day. And I've been encouraging her, if she could just change that one thing about her life, she would do much better, because she becomes, her health suffers, because she does so much, but she's a workaholic, and she doesn't blow it off on the treadmill or the track. But I promise you, before I leave, I'm going to have her on an exercise schedule. Watch what I tell you. Yeah. But the other woman, there was another girl, she was like, oh yeah, I see her at education every day. So she volunteered to see her. So now our next situation is that if the leaders are chronically absent, then we know that their team is probably not strong. That peer success team in that unit is probably not having regular meetings. They're probably not hosting regular workshops. And that's what is on our agenda. That's how we are successful in our communities. And there are, I have to say, of 12 units, having only 2 that aren't doing what they're supposed to is huge. That's a great statistic, because you probably remember there was a time where we were really at about 60%. You know, and I am so grateful to tell you that we're batting a lot. Our statistics are great right now, so I'm grateful for that. And so now the next thing becomes, what do we do with that team that leader's been we've talked to her, gotten her motivated, but now we've got to support her as a think tank. So that means bringing a team out to rec on a Saturday afternoon, a strong mentor team, to meet with that other team and just workshopping ideas and telling them what's working for them in their unit, how they're successfully mentoring in their unit, and giving them some guidance. And it's just that simple, you know. And so, although I have always worked in art and interior decorating and home flipping, I think I could run a pretty big company. I think that I have realized some strengths through running this peer success team that I might not have recognized in myself until now. But I think I could be the director of something like a nonprofit organization. And so I think that when I've been recruiting women from here, so I talked to Breck. And I was like, listen, this is what I want to do. I want to bring these women, you know, he knows what I want to do. And I think that I'm not going to have any problem pulling it off, bringing these women. I'm not leaving out men, but I visualize a workforce of women who, you know, will have no problem. I feel like in the next year, my goal is going to be to build a warehouse in Aliceville, California, and I'm going to fill it up with tools and equipment and materials that you use to install green roofs, install solar panels, or the connections with companies that do, or an individual that does. I have the resources to buy the spray foam insulation rigging. And I'm going to take these women out of prison and I'm going to train them how to use them at this warehouse. And then I'm going to send them out to do this. And I'm going to use the nonprofit aspect. I'm going to have them do clients that need their homes more energy efficient. And I've researched it, and I know that there's these organizations, like I think one of them is called STAR or something, but basically it's the state of California's energy efficient team that's going to help me sign on with the tax breaks and whatever else kind of things that are going to show that our organization is helping keep the earth and build sustainably, you know, keeping the earth healthier. And then, I lost my train of thought real quickly. Oh, then the beautiful aspect will be when we do it on let's say 3 days a month, however it works out. We go to people's houses, older women who don't have the money to put spray foam insulation in their house, whose windows need to be replaced, who need a garden built. And we do that as volunteers. And we pay back to our community. And the women who I'm bringing out of prison, we do that as a community. And we show that community that this is ex-offenders that are doing this for you today. You know what I'm saying? And we start to change the stigma of what it is to be an ex-offender in America. Don't you just love that?
Have you thought of a name yet?
No. No, I'm going to call it Mike's Chicks. No, I'm just kidding, Mike's Chicks. I'm just kidding. But we've got to figure out a name.
Because there's also, for people, I don't know how it works down there, but here we get tax breaks.
Mm-hmm, right.
You put in new windows, you write that off in your tax.
Exactly. Yeah, and it can affect your insurance in different ways, you know? And so I definitely will have Travis research all that for me. You know, and so then I had the greatest idea that a lot of people in Aliceville, I read about this guy who had a co-op on the East Coast. And this cat, he realized that, it costs a lot of money to own a backhoe or rent, whatever. And Akumba, it's kind of an up-and-coming artist community, and I would like it to stay that way. Breck says that there's a lot of people moving into the area that want away from the city because it's kind of desert out there. Not kind of, it's straight desert. And so I thought, well, what a cool idea, because in Fort Worth, Texas, I had a net marketing group. So what I did was, say on Facebook, I've got all these friends on Facebook. One of them builds pools. One of them is an insurance agent. We were real estate people. I was an interior decorator and flipped houses, whatever. So what I did is I just created a group of Facebook friends who were all in the home building business or something to do with that. And we created a network marketing group where they literally paid me $69 a month for us to just keep each other in the loop of upcoming projects. It's the smartest thing ever. So I see this other opportunity in Akumba in San Diego where not only that, but this guy I read about, he's got a warehouse where you can join the co-op and you can come there and borrow screwdrivers or backhoes or whatever it is that you need to borrow or lease for a project, and that way you can do your project from out of town. If this is your away from home or whatever. And it's just the greatest thing. It's a grassroots thing. I'm all about bartering and grassroots efforts. Anything where I can keep big business out of my life. I like to eat at restaurants where I know the owner. I want to shop at a store where I know the owner. That's how America stays beautiful, in my opinion. I told somebody the other day, I was like, I will never see some of these very rude people again. And she was like, well, except when you're at Walmart. I was like, that's never going to happen. I don't go there. Never. No, I'm not going there. No, if I can't grow it or make it, I don't need it. That's what I feel like right now. Anyway, I'm so excited. So the other day, speaking of which, I graduated. Well, let me show you my most recent and best certificate. I graduated recently from the Stratford Career Center. Yeah, I am now officially a construction manager and contractor. And so some of the things that I studied were, it encompassed introduction, the health and vitality of today's construction industry, who hires construction contractors and how they get money, project planning, drafting and design, the construction industry, historical perspectives, project risk and liabilities, delivery, methods, selection, documents, CSI master formats, measuring the project success. And it's so funny because a lot of that stuff I did my whole life. When I was 18, we bought our first house to flip, and the three of us. Yeah, we used drug money. I'm not going to lie. I sold enough weed to go buy this little crappy house, and we flipped it, But now I know how to do it the right way, and I'm so proud of myself for it. So, that was just section 1. And so it took me 3 years to finish that class. And I finished with an 82 average.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not too bad, right? Not too bad. I don't think that's the best. I probably could have done a little better, but the estimates at the end kind of got me because I wasn't passionate about it, because I know there's an app for that now, and so my heart wasn't in it, because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to do an app when I get out, so I was just kind of winging it, Hello, we are back. Well, so I wanted to tell you about my day yesterday, because I think one of the things that I know is like the defining measure of a successful individual in this world. It's all about relationships. And I feel like that was the theme of my whole life yesterday. And like I've told you before, like I was reckless when I was young to the point where I didn't care about my reputation. I thought that was just something that didn't matter. I prided myself in being a crazy bitch. You know what I mean? Like that's just what it was. Like I just didn't care. And that doesn't serve you well. If your goals are such, it doesn't line up, and it results, it comes down to relationships. And one of the things that we all know here is that you can tell the people in prison who have burnt all their bridges because they live differently here. They don't have anyone to call. They don't have anyone to count on. They don't have anyone to put money on their books because they've burnt every bridge they've ever had, and sometimes it's okay to burn all those bridges and then start new because maybe those were not good connections in the first place, and going out and like in NA and AA, one of the prefaces is that, you want to change playmates and playthings and play places if you want to really start over. And so I've made clear I've been watching these women for a long time, and there are at least 5 of them who I know will be the best workers. I know what exactly their skill set is because I observe them here, and I know what they're capable of, and I look forward to helping them get out of prison early and making sure that they have a place to start over in California and a job that suits them. And a life that's worth living, and not have to worry about going back to their broken families or the life that they were living before. And they worry, and I'm so grateful that I have the support systems that I have in place, and the beautiful relationships that I have. And so yesterday, I just want to kind of tell you about my day because it was a really beautiful day. And it was bitter cold, and I woke up, and it was like snow flurries. So there's a young lady named Cheyenne who is what they call the grade 1 on compound, and it means she's the boss of the compound workers during the day. It's a highly held position for the captain. There's a lot of trust put in her, but her job is to make sure that the compound is mowed and not covered in trash and all that other business. So, and whereas I work with her because my job is to make sure that the gardens are just right. And so I've been training her to take on the garden position because there was a time where I did both. I just at some point got tired of doing all that and decided I just wanted to be the gardener, And so whereas I've trained many of grade 1s to do the compound job, I wasn't willing to do it myself anymore. It's physically laborious and, I'm not with all that anymore. Why not when I can just kick back and tend the garden? So anyway, I was teaching her, introducing her to all the different plants and telling her about them and their root systems and how you propagate them and how you trim them. And we've been doing that for a couple of days now in the freezing cold because I only have 4 to 6 to 8 more weeks, and who knows, but not that many. So we did that in the morning, and then I went to rec, and I did an amazing workout, like serious workout in the gym. I got on the elliptical, like within my workout, I would do a little bit of strength training and then get on the elliptical and come back and do some more strength training. And then I did some great, I love to go upside down on the wall and on a handstand on the wall and then flip over and squat and then flip back up and do that for a minute or stand on my head for a minute or whatever. And it's so good for your metabolism. It's almost like as if you had an inversion machine. An inversion machine is so healthy for you because our body really responds well to that upside downness, And so anyway, I had the best workout ever, and then I went to my think tank meeting at 2 o'clock. But while I was in the gym, there was like I just have this different perspective now because I see all of these people that I'm not going to see anymore. And I look forward to introducing you to Angela Johnson, who she's doing a little bit of time herself. And I've been talking her into, collaborating with us. I said, do you have daddy issues? And she was like, what? Are you kidding me? Yeah. She's like, I hadn't thought about it in a while because he's gone, but yeah.
That's what made it so easy when he died.
Yeah, it made it easy when he died, she said. Yeah.
He didn't really love me anyway, so it made it not so hard. I don't know if he's down here. You get in trouble?
Maybe. But it's okay. But yeah, I'm going to definitely introduce you to Angela. She's so beautiful and cool, and she definitely is going to be one of your favorite people. One of your favorite. I don't know exactly. Angela, do you want to tell me how much time you're doing?
I have a life sentence.
She has a life sentence.
25.
She's done 25 so far. And, to me, that's enough time. She's done more than enough time to pay for her crime, if you ask us, right? Right. Yeah. So then when I came in yesterday, after the think tank meeting, I came in and one of my favorite officers was working our unit. And so with the topic of relationships, it was just so precious because there's so much stigma over the relationships that go on in prison between officers and inmates. But what we need to be focused on are building healthy relationships, ones that are based on a reentry, that help a person feel good about reentry, And so this gentleman is actually a facilities worker who I've worked with many times because he sometimes works compound, or I've done projects with him where I needed facilities to help me build a wall in the garden or, whatever. And he knows my work ethics, and he's often come to me. Many officers have come to me and consulted with me about plants or gardens or, like, hey, what is that? I want to put that in my yard, type of stuff. So last night he tells me, hey, I need to talk to you about this garden. I was like, okay. So I talked to him, and he's telling me about how he has what's so loud? I'm sorry. Anyway, so he's telling me about this older lady at his church who her husband died, and I guess he didn't like gardening. He didn't like flowers or whatever the situation. Her desire now is to put a garden in. So he was like, and I'm going to do it for her, and I need your tips. So I was like, well, lucky for you, I happen to know all about what grows best in this region and how to do it, So I had this handy-dandy garden proposal. So I turned to the page that tells, I said, look, all you have to do is look on the computer and look at the hardiness zone for 8A. I said, that's your zone. And he was like, oh, I never even heard of that. I was like, that's the USDA hardiness zone for your area. So he was like, oh, okay. So he writes that down, And then I start to tell him, I was like, well, she would probably love to have a bunch of hummingbirds and butterflies. And so I give him a list of flowers that she can plant that will bring those, attract butterflies and hummingbirds. He was just so interested, And then he's like, well, and to me, that's what it's supposed to be like. It's supposed to be where we interact with each other on a human level, without any disrespect, without anything that's nothing dishonorable, but there are these pathways to reentry and self-worth and leveling that cops versus criminals mentality. It's so important. And I know that there's this program called Inside Out that I've talked to you about before because I loved it, the one where the professors came in from the college and brought sociology students, and in a circle we sat inside students and outside students woven together in a circle, and we talked about social justice and criminal reform and all of those topics so that those students would have a better perspective when they go on to be prosecutors or social workers or probation officers. And that is a proven method for leveling, bringing commonality, especially building bridges. That's what it is. It's building bridges, and we Americans, that's one of our problems is in order for this system to foster 50 years of mass incarceration, they had to build a wall between those two people. Because if not, it wouldn't have worked. That greed machine wouldn't have been fueled so easily if police officers were more kind and criminals were less criminal and more willing to trust their community. And there's power in that. And I know I've read so many beautiful papers about communities where police officers and offenders are sitting in these circles workshopping ideas on how to fix the community. And obviously it starts with the youngest generation, And so anyway, I worked with him about that little project, helped him design the garden, and it reminded me how much I can't wait to be back in my community where I take my neighbors' bouquets of flowers from my garden and vegetables from my garden and herbs and things that I cooked with those things, and that's my favorite thing to do for my neighbors. And, having parties where everybody shares the bounty, and going in. And I thought, you remember, I don't know, did we talk about this community garden and the idea that I had for the burnt city of LA and the Palisades? Did I talk to you about that?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, I have more ideas than I have minutes. But I recently, when he was talking to me about that last night, it reminded me that this workshop that I created for here that encompasses writing and healing and gardening, I saw a vision of myself taking it to those burnt cities and helping them build community gardens where it's ash, and helping them work through their brokenness and their sorrow and their loss by doing the same stuff in these workshops that we would do here as offenders who lost stuff and had lost their life. But it transfers over and rebuilding their life, because they're going to need that. I've seen them on the news. And not only in the Palisades and in LA, but we're about to live in a world, we do live in a world where storms and natural disasters are going to be wiping out whole areas, So I'm so excited about it. But then the next thing that happened in my relationship day, like I can't tell you, every theme of my day yesterday put me in position for these relationships. And so I was going to talk to somebody about buying some apples. I went upstairs to talk to a girl about buying some apples, and I walked by a room where one of the mentors from the Peer Success Program was sitting on her bed, and I could tell she wasn't herself, and I was like, hey, excuse me, how you doing, baby? Are you okay? And she's like, she just starts crying and telling me what's going on in her day and in her life with this relationship situation. Not like a lover. A lot of times we've cheapened the word relationship so much that everyone thinks that it's to do with a love affair. But every connection we have is a relationship. Anytime I relate to another person on any level, we form a relationship, and we've muddled that word, but that's what it is. And so anyway, she starts breaking down and telling me the truth of the fact that, she's built this friendship and had these expectations, and now that it's taken a different relation, now that there's been disappointments. But the beautiful thing is that she recognized that the relationship was toxic for her. That it was, when she started to recognize, I told her, I said, Oscar Wilde said it best when he said, learn to behave from those who cannot. And oftentimes, people are put in our life for a reason and a season, and it's not that we're going to be friends till the day we die. It's that our job is to learn from them in that moment, to extract what we need to extract from the situation, not manipulating and getting what we can from them, but growing from the wisdom that we gain from watching them or learning from them or being inspired by them. That's what life is all about. Those relationships, you know. And so whereas she was brokenhearted and sad because this relationship didn't pan out the way she thought it would and there were disappointments, I encouraged her to hold on to the truth that is that regardless of how anything works out, we always have to look back at that life, at that connection. You know, we've talked about this before, the zim-zum, where your energy is unique in this universe and my energy is unique in this universe. And what happens when we connect is to be revered because it doesn't exist anywhere else. And once we as humans begin to respect that space and honor it and extract from it as we should, then we will be a better society. You know, the more we can pass that around, the more we will be stronger and more beautiful. And if we walk away from a situation, however it ends up, and always look back on it with love, we have won. Because too often we walk away with bitterness. We bury seeds of resentment, and we walk away less than instead of more enriched with beauty. Because we can't change another person at all. All we can do is learn from the moment. And what she learned, and I explained to her, is that, you know, what she already knew, is that this is a test. This is a test for when she goes out into the free world and is a mommy again, trying to be a better mommy this time, and her job is to connect with her family and be more responsible and still keep hold of all the things she's learned about herself and not lose her new identity and make it and not depend on someone who's toxic as she did before, who sold her a dream that came with a Fed case. You know, that's a real situation. It's real common. And the situation is that this is a test for her to learn how to have better boundaries and not let people in to her hula hoop without observing them first. That's the number one mistake that we make is we think, oh my God, your favorite color is purple and you like to eat soup out of a bowl with a spoon? Let's be best friends forever. You know, let's go watch ID together and be best friends, and we'll talk about Susie because we don't like her kind. You know, and these are the kind of toxic little communities that are organically created that are not going to serve us well. You know, but instead, putting a hula hoop around us and recognizing that our job is to sit back and observe how this person is before we let them get close enough to whisper in our ear and affect our life, that's going to serve us better on the outside. Because once we get out, that habit, once you create that as your all-the-time habit, you're going to be more successful. No doubt. You know? I mean, that is a make it or break it. You don't have, once you have been to prison and you get out and you're on parole or probation, you've lost the luxury of letting bad boys or corrupt individuals or even just people that aren't on the right track. And your best bet is to find people that are doing positive things like you want to do. So this morning I walk into this room, and this girl is talking about how she knew this girl that started a nonprofit organization. And she's got this idea for a nonprofit organization. So I spent about 30 minutes explaining to her how to do that and that she needed to zoom in a little better on her idea. You know, it's one thing to say, oh, well, yeah, I want to start a nonprofit organization. I want to help women out of prison. Well, if you're doing a proposal, you're going to need to be a little more specific. Right? You're going to have to zoom in on what you want to do, you know. And what I know is that there was a time, you know, I've noticed that they've been kind of quiet today. How lovely. So lovely, right? So when I was working with the think tank in Hazleton with the Professor Dr. Kirby, Dr. Kirby and Dr. Sanchez came to me one day and they said, "Hey, we're doing this this judge that we're working with for what's it called? Drug court. I guess they had just started in West Virginia. They had started this new plan 10 years ago where they were, instead of just locking people up and separating them from their children who had drug problems, they were putting them in this drug court where they could report every week and they could stay out until at least their kids were a certain age, or, may never have to go if they served it right, So the judge had asked the professors, he said, how these women aren't doing very well. Their rate of success isn't very good. How can I help them succeed? So they asked me so I interviewed the women in prison with me, several of them. I sat them down and I took notes, and I asked them, if you were in this situation, what would have helped you successfully complete that program? And the number one thing that we came to realize was that women needed a stable home. The majority of the women who are here, there's too many women here who the problem was that they didn't have a house, a place that they could nest and raise their children, because they were literally living on some dude's couch or exchanging sexual favors for a house over their children's head is what it boils down to. Placating some guy so that they could live on eggshells, and that's not a formula for success. Women are nesters. And the only thing I agree with Trump right now, the thing I agree with most, is that as an American, I have sat here for many years and watched as we have taken care of other countries, and yet 25% of our children were going without food. I feel like, I'm not saying we shouldn't be able to, we're wealthy enough to help everybody, but why haven't we been eradicating poverty from our own land? Why would we not? And so if that's what he's talking about, I salute him. But I'm going to ask him to put his money where his mouth is. Because we do have too many women who don't have a house for their children and food on the table. So maybe if we could get that fixed, I think that we would see less brokenness in our land. So women are nesters. And when you start having to jeopardize your morals or do things that you're not comfortable doing to have a house over your head and your children, then you end up in prison. And I've heard that too many times here. So maybe part of my nonprofit organization doesn't need to just be putting split-foam insulation in for elderly women. Maybe it needs to be building houses for mommies that don't have them. Blew up with HUD.
All right, guys, that is going to be it for this one. That was Letters from Aliceville. That was the podcast hosted by Celeste Blair, who is currently incarcerated in FCI Aliceville in Aliceville, Alabama. She was convicted of a non-violent drug conspiracy charge. She was given 30 years, and her sentence was recently commuted by Joe Biden. So, again, a huge congratulations goes out to Celeste, and we're definitely going to see more of her here on Prison Audio, so definitely stay tuned. If you are watching this far into the video, I just want to say a quick thank you. I appreciate you for watching. If you like this type of content and you want to help the channel grow, the best way to do that is by liking this video, by commenting on the video, and by subscribing to the channel. And if you're so inclined, please share this on social media, share it with your friends. Every little bit helps, and I definitely appreciate everything you guys do that way. I also do have another channel. It is a prison related channel. It's a parole hearing channel, so I will leave a link below in the description for that channel, and you can definitely check that out. We have over I think 7,500 subscribers on that channel right now, and it's growing quite quickly, so definitely go and check that out. I will also leave a link below to my Patreon. That is another way you can help support me if you're interested in getting some podcasts that are commercial free and getting some podcast episodes early. Right now on the Patreon, I have the Red Onion Randy podcast, which is like the classic prison podcast. If you guys are not familiar with that, definitely go and check the Patreon out and check out Red Onion Randy, completely commercial free, and you can get some bonus episodes and all that kind of stuff. So that's definitely an option, and I will leave the link below. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Always leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, and I'm going to see you on the next one.